Wonderful to be here at FLC on this very springy morning. And we're kind of talking about what do our bodies need, and low back was one of the things that came up. So we're going to start off on our back body, and I'm going to invite you to just tune in to how your back feels when you're flat. And if at any point you notice that it's twingy, you might experiment with bending the knees and anchoring through the feet, kind of that preparation for bridge pose. We're going to come into a few sighing breaths. A wonderful way to anchor into the moment, into ourselves. One of my favorite mantras that I created and I've been sharing with you guys has been this moment, this body, this breath. It's sort of a tool for present momentness. We can also come into our 3 points of introversion: inward gaze, light connection, tip of the tongue, soft ujjayi throat breath. I'm going to ask you to scan your body for any areas of holding, preparing. Often we tighten in the weirdest and unnecessary ways. I was brushing my teeth and I found myself kind of like clenching a little in the throat and a little bit in the jaw, like, get it done. What? Not useful. When you feel complete with your sighing breaths, close the mouth, begin to breathe through the nose and creating that throat breath, that ujjayi. I hope that as you begin to tune in towards your breath and body, that you maybe even just get a little smile on your face, a little just sense of delight of this incredible, magical body being that you are, and noticing your resilient nature. You might have parts that are a little crispy. Maybe it's the right elbow, maybe it's that low back, but the majority of you is awake and fluid, and all of us is available to healing and evolution. So that alone is its own beautiful miracle. When you are ready to take it into your compression and expansion breathing, please do. When you're making that vigorous and slow engagement of the abdomen towards the spine towards the floor, check in with head, neck, and shoulders. Maybe roll the head side to side. What you got going on today? Because again, I remind us that it's connected all the way up from that tailbone into the brainstem. Let's do a couple more. Asking of each exhale and each inhale, is there more? Can I compress out a little extra? At the very end of the inhale, can I sip in a little extra? The next time your inhale comes, inviting you to sweep arms overhead and just begin organically stretching, moving, rolling wrists. And exhaling, bringing that right knee into the belly, release wind pose. Shoulder heads anchor down. Both feet flex. Beautiful. No floppy feet here. I love it. And you might wiggle that knee just a little right and left. Remember to keep anchoring your left thigh towards the floor. Shoulder heads are anchored. On a long inhale, extend that leg straight up to the ceiling, asking, is there more? Exhale, root that low back. Slowly descend the right leg like you're trying to paint a stripe on the horizon in front of you. And practice melting with gravity, especially those of us who are doers, planners, preparers. That invitation to soften completely is such a wonderful one. Keep fluid and responsive Let's bring that left knee into the belly. It was great. I was in a meditation class and the guy is just brilliant. And he was talking about how if we're thinking about the future or the past, we're basically in problem solving mode. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So come into this moment where it's perfect. There's nothing to know, do, accomplish. Beautiful. Wiggling that leg a little side to side. Helps us to know our own terrain, what's in there, what needs help. On a long inhale, extend that left leg. Again, you might point, flex, and roll while you're completing the breath. Exhale, root and descend. And head, neck, and shoulders languid, melty. And when you reach the floor, the whole body melts. Long inhale as if it's all you'd ever do. Exhale, empty, hold out external breath left and begin your pumping. Whew, I'm sometimes amazed by how much sensation that can stir up. And it can depend on how your back is feeling, how much you ate, how much hurry and worry you've been doing. Because again, a lot of that will kind of tighten up in the diaphragm. Let's do a couple more rounds. Give yourself some breath in between. Some self-massage, like hand to belly. When that is complete, notice what's needed if you need knees to belly again, etc. We're going to be coming to bridge pose. We're going to be coming in and out a few times, and then we're going to place the block under the sacral triangle. But you might imagine the block is between the thighs, right? Feet flat under the knees. Inhale, slow, deep and wide, as if it's all you'd ever do. And you might initiate your bridge with belly to spine, spine to floor. Feel that little bit of pelvic tuck that ignites the glutes. That's what raises you up. Is there more? Inhaling, descent, one rib at a time. Make sure you're not using your neck or shoulders to control the descent. It's all about butt and thighs. And again, exhale, rise. Good. I'm hearing some awesome ujjayi. Inhaling, descent. And last time will come up. When you do come down, you might choose to place the block and settle the pelvis right on that sacral triangle on the block. So it's not in the low back, it's right at that bony triangle. Yeah, and I usually hang out with knees bent for a little bit. I feel like it gives me that tractioning of the low back. And then at some point you might extend or drape your legs. Again, they're just relaxed. The feet are floppy. If you feel your pelvis kind of dumps forward or downward and you get an arch, you need to move the block further down. So we want it to just hold the body like we're a piece of taffy, just draped. And I think of this pose as helping us remember neutral. We're not in neutral, but generally in our daily life, we become a little forward bent. So this is taking us the opposite in the hopes that neutral will be our new friend again. Spend as long as here as you like. When you come off, I recommend bending the knees again to lift the hips. Remove the block, and then inviting you into happy baby. So bringing the knees towards you and down alongside the ribs. If you can engage such that your tailbone curls towards the floor versus being up off, that would be better. That's where the spine really feels safe. Remember, you could roll a little side to side like a little happy baby. Oh, and then would it feel good to bring the heels towards each other in butterfly? Maybe with a little windshield wiper, as I call it. One foot coming up the belly and the other. And then I'm gonna come into half straddle. So I'm gonna bring my hands behind the thighs, kind of in the area, so that I can extend one leg at a time and say hello. Say hello to hamstrings and then even calves as you point, flex and roll. You might also get a sense of the IT bands being able to get a release. You know, they're what holds you together when you're in forward path of motion. So when you go out like this, they're like, oh, thanks for the break. Appreciate it. Now I'm going to have you place the feet one more time for bridge pose. We're going to hang out here for a few breaths. So to be in your highest up bridge pose just creates neck stress. Come down a little. Work the shoulder heads in towards each other. Maybe you're anchoring through the upper arm. Maybe you enjoy yoga mudra. That's an option. Imaginary block between the knees, send the knees away from you, hard up and back. And of course, when our ribs are rising up away from the arms, the breath is going to bring us a stretch right up through the chest and so on. Enjoy it. Enjoy that internal massage. And when you feel complete, please come slowly, slowly down. Bringing then the soles of the feet together, let the knees open. Breath or two, and then gently and slowly raising the hips just an inch or so off the floor. Again, if any of this bothers your back, if it's already sensitive, we want to notice that. The reason this pose, I feel like sometimes helps back issues is it really ignites strength through inner thigh, deep, low kind of butt groin. And it's almost like kind of stabilizing the hub of the wheel from which everything else feels supported. There's nothing you need to know or do here, so you can relax, watch the breath wave. Usually hold for about a minute. If you feel anything tweaky, come out, of course. And I love hearing the Ujjayi. It's really awesome. It's one of my favorite tools for when my mind is busy as well. It's just keep returning to that Ujjayi breath, sweeping the surface clear. When you do come out, you might just settle the hips a moment and breathe in butterfly. Eventually, you might then straighten the legs out, maybe in a straddle. You might roll the head side to side. Maybe you start reaching overhead and just organically stretching. I don't know why that always makes me yawn. We're going to come up into table pose. Sometimes I like, for lubricating the spine, sometimes I like classic spinal twist on my back or side embryo pose. And sometimes I really like using table pose as an entry point into what places are kind of tight or crunchy. So intelligent hands, we're first going to start with cow cat. So tailbone draws back, heart draws forward. Asking of the inhale, is there more? So you can get right up into the chest and ribs. Exhaling, tuck the tailbone, let the head hang. And we're going to be here for a little bit. Always feel free to make it organic. So maybe you end up taking the ribs to the left and looking out over the right shoulder. You can even bring the hips back towards the heel. And then we're going to take the right foot out to the side. If you can plant the sole of the foot, great. And again, we're just going to kind of pulse the hips back a little bit. And we're going to do a little spinal twist of just opening through that right arm, the ceiling. And then slowly down and through. And this can be a very gentle. I'm not going all the way down. I'm just making a range of motion and noticing how that feels. And then we'll come back to our table and extend the left leg. Inhaling, opening. If this ever bothers your neck looking up, just stay looking down. Let the rest of the spine rotate. This is your massage, a really tune in, there's nowhere to get to. Is this side different? I'll tell you a really great way to notice if your rotation is different is to try wiping from either side. That'll clue you into stuff real fast. And you're like, wiping what? You know what I'm talking about. Coming back to your table pose. We're going to come down in moments to quadricep stretch. You might do another couple of cow cats. I find it really helps me lubricate the spine, but also notice what's maybe a little bit crunchy. And then if you would like to go to downward dog for a moment, you could do that. We're going to do quad stretch, and I'm going to do it on my belly. Maybe you like to roll onto your side or come up to stand. If you're doing it on your belly, I feel like this is a much gentler entry point, is to bring one forearm across the front of the mat and to anchor the pelvis so that as I reach for my ankle, I actually get to use this forearm to kind of press my torso up into cobra back. So I'm not like flailing back there or over tightening my back. And then simply resettling the forehead on your forearm, letting the reaching arm, let that shoulder draw down and in. And always letting the breath create the edge. We can also intensify, like, I'm not getting much of a quad stretch. First of all, make sure that your knee is straight back from the hip, but you can also pretend that you're pointing at the wall behind you with your knee, and that'll tend to raise the knee up a little bit and give you even more stretch. When you feel complete, you might come out and kind of bend, straighten, roll, ankle, all of that. And then slowly reaching back to the other ankle. We can add our yoga toes, kind of flaring the toes of that foot. Just brings a lot more intelligence to the pose. Is the side different? Make sure that you're breathing full breath. It's that, last 10% or so that'll really fulfill the stretch. And again, at some point releasing, and you might rock the hips side to side. You might windshield wiper along the leg. I'm going to bring us into a knee down forearm plank. I always start, if I'm going to do forearm plank, especially in the morning, I always start with knee down. Sometimes I don't progress from there, but it's just a much safer entry point. So make sure shoulder heads are anchored down. Again, neck soft smile perhaps. And just pressing a little with the forearms while you sort of gently tuck the tailbone should bring you into a nice neutral. Neck is neutral, it's not hanging or reaching. Maybe your gaze is down in your beautiful hands, or I can imagine love poem. What message would you send to your amazing body and being today? And maybe it's just thank you. And in your own time, release, and perhaps right away with child's pose, or maybe windshield wiper legs, and then moving. Now, the ultimate yoga practice is where we feel our way through it. So I'm also excited when I look out at you guys and someone's doing something a little different. It's awesome. Always bringing breath in as a participant, a communicator to the body, to the pose itself. Yeah, maybe you want to take your arms to one side. That's a great idea. I love poses like this that help us communicate with our side body, because our side body, I feel like, is absolutely the silent partner, one of them, that affects so much about how our spine feels and so on. But rarely does anybody say, oh, my side body hurts, right? When have you, oh, my side body's too tight for that. But notice, I'm much tighter on one side today than another. Anybody else? Yeah. Tara, how about you? Are you tighter on one side during yours? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so that side movement really can be informative, help us release in an awesome way. All right, we're gonna come up into our downward facing dog, ultimately move back to ragdoll. So if for any reason your hands, shoulders are asking you to not be in downward dog. You can just meet us there. But we're going to take a few moments to ignite intelligent hands, belly to spine, ascend the hips, up and back, and then pedal. I love this for kind of lubricating the back body and making sure that I'm not overly tight in my plantar fascia, my Achilles, my calves. It's also kind of fun to look at your feet as they go through that process. And then let's slowly walk the hands back to the feet. Nice core support. Ragdoll, knees bent. If this is too much, you could always support elbows on thighs. Sometimes it's helpful to have a block taking on part of the body weight. I'd love you to make just the smallest movements with your body weight, a little forward, a little back. Just subtle. I want you to be able to feel, first of all, ultimately find where neutral is in your foot, but that how you can get some really interesting stretches as you move through that range. Find your place of best stretch, and please take another couple of breaths. Really intentional, big inhale, even if it means, putting your hands on your shins to do jackknife and give yourself space. Big exhale, belly to spine initiates it. Compression breath, fold and fold and fold. Ideally breathing through the nose, but I know I get pretty stuffy sometimes down here, so I have to do mouth, especially on the inhale. On your next inhale, drop your butt to chair or bar stool and root and relax. Prayer hands might touch the thumbs at the third eye and then the heart space. Invitation now to reverse prayer hands. Check that your shoulders don't slide up. I saw some shadows. There you go. I'm just rotating those hands out. And we're going to give a little attention to our base a moment. So nice planting with the feet. And we're going to do some arm movements. And it's really important when we're, exploring stuff with different rotations through the arm. Really move slowly so that if there's something in that shoulder joint that's like, yeah, you can hear it ahead of time. Okay. So first we're just going to take the right arm and I'm going to kind of swing it out and up and over like I'm patting myself on the back here and then out. And I'm kind of letting it also kind of swing across the front of my body, just inviting more range of motion. So whatever your body ends up doing is just fine. On that last one, holding there if you can. And if you're able to use your left hand and just encourage your right elbow further back. And just notice a moment what happens if you then really open through the chest space. And slowly unwind. There's a version of this, of course, where we take a strap and we use that at pull and so on. We're kind of doing a gentler version today. We'll take our left arm out, up, and over. Maybe you go, good job. Hey, it's not easy being human. So, if you're doing any amount of grace, good job. Planting that hand, using the other hand to encourage the elbow up. As you kind of open through your heart space, think about pressing that elbow back a little bit. And then slowly unwinding. All right, we're going to go back to that right arm and we're just going to invite it behind us and call it partial bind. Sometimes the bind is down low. Sometimes we encourage it to come up a little bit, which I would encourage you to do. So using your hand, left hand, hold the hand a little higher. And most of us will get to a point where we feel some tension here. You're feeling it higher up even. All right. So this gets really into bicep tendon and bicep, which tend to be pretty tight on us. When you see people walking like with their elbows bent like this, and especially their palms back, it's called the farmer's walk, right? So tight through here from years of doing. But I know plenty of people who have that from other stuff, whether it's playing pickleball or quilting or, whatever. So notice what this is like. Take a deep breath. It's very gentle, very loving. And then let the hand just slide down and externally rotate. Take that palm open to the ceiling, keep going, maybe through the pinky. Hold at that edge, breathe and notice. And just scan. You know, how does that right side feel different? When you're ready, we'll bring the left hand behind. I'm going to use my right hand to help it up a little bit, scoochy scooch. And we're progressively just sort of inviting the shoulder and the elbow back. Only as much as feels good. Breathe and notice. And I like sometimes having the other hand on my body. It's so funny. It's not like it's on the spot that's being stretched, but it somehow lets me know I'm paying attention versus that I'm going to tune out and all of a sudden go too far. When you feel complete, you're going to slowly rotate open, palm to the sky. Keep rotating back, externally rotating. Again, sometimes I'll add little movements. I'll take my head maybe a little away from that hand. And then when you let it come out, you can just scan both arms. Really feel a little enlivened. Let's do our nerve flossing. We'll just do each of the three very briefly so that each of us can kind of be reminded like, oh, I really need that one. And then maybe you go up and do the full kind of 12 reps on each side. And this is an opportunity to be in our feet and kind of an ignited core. Got myself, but a true mountain stance, feet are forward. We're pretending we've got a block between our thighs. You might even add a little pelvic floor engagement. Okay, so this is our prayer hand one. Anybody got some exciting stuff showing up? We do. Come on out, and then we'll come into the carrying the tray of drinks. So your hand is straight back. Fingertips are flat back, and then you're going to dump your tray of drinks so that the fingertips face down. And then they come back up. And so you guys might remember there is a small add-on, and if you're going to explore it, I want you to do it really gently. So as you bring that hand out to the right, you're going to take your left ear a little towards your shoulder, left shoulder. And your turn. Let's just do that one more time. Let's find the other side and do a few, just the arm. You can listen into the arm, you know what's going on in there. And at some point, we'd like adding a very gentle movement of the head away from the knee. And then they come back towards each other. All right, so that's that second one. The third one, also, you could add a head movement. Again, if you decided to do it, I wouldn't do it right away. And I don't usually do it during this one if I'm going to do it at all. I usually do it during this one. So the other one, the third one, is hand in front. And then you bring it back with your fingertips coming together like you're making a little pouch for someone to put a tip in. Maybe a little surprise blessing from behind someone's going to come put a love note in there. And so for most of us, if you feel this, it will be kind of through the forearm and kind of into the elbow. If you're not feeling anything at all, number one, make sure that you're straightening through the elbow. So you're kind of pressing down through the wrist. And then if you want to explore a little intensification, take your beak of your fingers and rotate them out a little bit. And then let's explore the other side again, not doing a full kind of 12 reps on each side, just enough for you to explore. Again, you're kind of bringing your fingers into that beak, a little pouch for the tip. And if you want a little extra intensity exploration, try rotating out. And you know, I've had people like, well, can I do them both at the same time? Of course you can. I wouldn't right away if you're first learning them, or even just, you know, you haven't done them yet today, do at least a couple each side before you decide to go in both. Now, one thing that can be interesting with both something like this one, if I then do the beak rotate, I really can feel then the difference of intensity between each. I'm like, okay, noted. So that can be useful. Let's take those hands around behind in Yoga Mudra and give yourself a little more of an athletic stance. Shoulder heads rotate down and see if you can slowly straighten your elbows. If you cannot get them straight, get a hold of a strap or a star. Try to breathe inside of this pose. Sometimes I'll just kind of let go. I keep my hands there, but I'll come out of a straight arm. I'll let my shoulders rotate forward. I'll get a big inhale and then I'll reignite it. And then sometimes it feels so good to sink the hips, deep knee bend, and come into kind of a ragdoll version. And I like this because it lets gravity help a little bit. If you've got your arms up and over, especially. If you don't, again, you might have that strap. Nice. And eventually just either let those arms bring you up or release the arms to ragdoll, whatever you notice. And roll off the back of the mat. So we're going to go from there. Inhaling, root and rise. Big glute squeeze. Exhaling, swan dive and fold. Take the hips a little side to side. Nice big breath. Inhale and extend halfway up. Chin. Exhale, nice core support. So you're almost barely on your hands as you slowly walk forward to your plank. If being on your hands even this long is too much, go right away to forearm plank. Otherwise, if you're in plank, see if you can hop. And that's a great indicator that you are in your core. So go ahead and drop those knees. Nice big inhale. Exhale, just the miniest chaturanga. Just bend the elbows, hold, and take your head from side to side so that you know your neck is not doing it. And then when you drop, inhaling, extending into flight in jet airplane. Exhale, simply soften to the floor. We're going to come in and out of jet airplane. Breath initiating motion. If you have your legs off the floor and it's creating low back tension, keep those legs rooted. Just extending through the spine, letting the head come up, the arms. Make sure you're creating kind of a shoulder blade sandwich. You can even think about externally rotating those arms a little bit more, and you might feel that then. One more, an invitation to hold as you sweep one arm forward and one arm back. And press back to your child's pose or downward facing dog. Both can be a resting pose depending on where you're at. Low back stretch is more prominent in child's pose. Either way, deep breath, maybe sighing breath. If you've got any energetic clutter, picture it just dumping out the top of the head. So I want to do something we haven't done in a while. We're doing a little shoulder exploration today, as you might have noticed. And I want to do this traction exercise that can really help, first of all, reveal side to side differences, which I think is important, but also help release any fascial adhesions and things like that. People are sometimes confused if they haven't done this before. They're like, where am I supposed to be feeling it? Well, you guys, of course, have been listening to me forever talking about how, like, this is not your shoulder. This is your shoulder. This is your shoulder. This is your shoulder, right? So this side body is such a big part of how our shoulder works well or not. And so this helps get into that. Basically, the key is you start in table and make sure that you're not in an acute angle. In other words, if my hands are too far back, I won't really get the activity. And you can adjust once you're there. So you're going to come down onto one forearm. And you want to make sure you're staying in your core. And I'm staying also on this other hand. I'm not coming down onto the elbow of that arm. So just one forearm down. You could bring it to teensy bit towards the central line, but not much. Strong core, big inhale. On the exhale, you're pressing down and back through the forearm. It doesn't move, but you're pressing as you slowly take your hips back towards your heels. Inhale, you return to this starting position. We're gonna do some number of times on this side, exhaling, anchor down and back through that form as you send the hips back. Enjoying the fullness of exhale, and if you're in your motion, do that a few more times. Anybody not getting anything? What would it be like to hang out in the furthest back position at the end of that exhale and receive the inhale in that shape? I always find it's amazing. It sends a massage into some areas that I was like, I could never have touched that. I didn't know it was there. Yeah, found something good. Sweet. And we'll come into the other side again. Nice core support the whole time. Yeah, and this is not something that necessarily you do, every day of your life. But like if you're finding something kind of fruitful here, you may want to come back to this again, maybe in a couple of days and just see if it's changed. See if it still feels like it needs it. Good. I'm hearing again some nice HIE. I struggle sometimes with not letting my neck tighten. Or trying to not let it tighten, I should say. And so sometimes if I notice if I brought my forearm in a little bit, it makes it even more prominent that I'm going to tighten. So if that's happening to you, bring your elbow back out right under the shoulder. And it's core support. Keep in mind, I keep talking about the shoulder, but really we're working with all these tensioning lines that go all the way to the hip. So again, if you've got like some low back tweak, etc., we know sometimes that's coming from these tensioning wires at the hip, whether it's the lat muscles, the psoas, and so on. Psoas and so on. Okay. Again, you might hold in that furthest back position and breathe and notice. And then when you feel complete, coming slowly out, I'm going to invite us onto our belly one more time for bow pose. If you know that bow pose does not work for you for some reason, knees, shoulders, low back, whatever, feel free to maybe just do the quadricep stretch again and just see if there's room to deepen there. Otherwise, again, I strongly recommend entering with one form across the front, shoulder heads anchored, so does pelvis. We gently control and reach for one ankle. We stay in kind of a cobra back and reach for the other ankle. Invite both shoulders in and back. Invite both knees towards each other. And as you're ready, press the ankles into the hands, usually on the inhale. Always kind of softening on the exhale. And then on the inhale again. And squeeze that imaginary block. Let's do one more. Release child's pose. We know that it's a challenge to breathe in both. So taking some nourishing breath stretches into your back, belly. When you come out, notice what's there and specific your body's craving. I'm going to bring us into bridge, into pigeon. And that might be the facing forward or down version. It might be coming onto your back for pigeon alternate. I often steer away from classic pigeon because it's been so easy over the years for people to irritate their backs or their knees. But one of the reasons that is that a lot of times when people come into pigeon, we've been taught that there's a goal to get this foot with the shin parallel. I was taught that in a number of classes. And that generally will destabilize low back and crank on your knee. So I just, if I'm gonna do this in my own practice, I keep the foot kind of like about the hip bone. So got my right knee forward, right hip is around my left hip bone, maybe even lower. And then I come down to my forearms. Now, if I'm already feeling any knee, low back, etc. discomfort, I'm gonna go on my back body. Otherwise, right here, you might just see if you can settle your head onto your hands, fists, the floor. And please tune in for a few really exploratory breaths. That's what's powerful here. We don't need a deep, crazy angle. We need committed breaths that are exploring in there. So inhaling, asking, is there more? On the exhale, really giving to gravity. If you are wanting to deepen the edge a little bit, use your back foot to just pull back a little bit. And again, tune into how your knee feels about that. If you're feeling safe and comfy, join me in a little bellows breath. That's that rapid in and out through the nose. And then a long inhale. Dump it through the mouth, the top of the head. I'm going to have us come out of this pose a little different today. If you would just roll over onto your right hip or butt cheeks, since I've got everybody in this class pigeon, I'm going to take advantage. Good. And then I'm going to have you come on up onto your butt with both legs then in front of you. And of course, you're facing your side of the mat now. Yeah. And you're going to take one knee down towards the center line and then the other. And then letting yourself kind of lean on each arm and then free up the other arm to reach and explore. And if you've already got something in your back that you know is a little creaky, move slower, and always, all of us, curiosity. When you are complete, you're going to return to your table pose and bring that left knee behind the left wrist. That feel good? Yes. Okay, good. I heard some interesting sound effects. Okay. Again, you might be on your fists, letting your head rest on the hands, the floor. Is this side different? Again, what can you explore with breath? I think of breath as like the kind of the treasure hunter. It's the one that kind of goes ahead and helps us to know what's in the unknowable jungle of our bodies. Again, you might be doing a little left to right rocking. You might be using your right foot to pull back a little bit. When we're seeking the edge, again, we're always curious and we move slowly so that if something's a little too much, we back off. Let's come into another little round of bellows breath. Again, if you're too stuffy, you could just do it through the mouth. And then a big inhale. Exhale, release. Roll it slowly out onto your left hip, using your hands to come up onto your butt. You're now facing the right side of your mat. Gently, internally rotating one knee at a time. Eventually letting it perhaps bring you into a spinal twist. And ultimately, you might reach through that free arm. If it feels so good, you want to hold kind of in that end zone of the reach. If I even do that, I recommend looking at the floor. It's just gentler on the neck. And this time, instead of coming back to a table, we're going to actually come onto our butt and kind of crab pose. You can face any direction you want. This is can be a little intense on wrists. So if your wrists are already a little bit sketchy, you might decide you don't want to do it. It's very brief, but it's a helpful stretch that kind of goes along with when we were doing that behind the back. I was talking about bicep tendon. This is a stretch that can help us get into there. I'm going to show you first so that you can get the most out of yours without, having to do it more times than necessary. So we plant our feet kind of like bridge, but wider. Shoulder heads anchor. I've got my fingertips facing my butt, not back. Okay. So shoulder heads down, very important. And I'm going to exhale and I'm going to raise my hips. And the more I think about raising my chest, just that little extra bit is what's going to bring me into a stretch through here. And then I inhale, come down, and then I exhale. So I'm not holding. So I want you to get that ignition, right? When you're ready, nice inhale, exhale, raise those hips. Don't drop the head back, keep the chin tucked. And think about raising the ribs a little higher and see if you get that stretch. Then inhale, down. Love up the wrist if you want to in between. And if that wasn't fruitful for you, or if in fact it was bad, then don't do another round. If you're like, oh, I think that I want to do another round, go for it. We're going to then come into our reclining pose for, block, but I find generally the block is too high, unless you're going to have something under your head. So we've got options. First of all, this is actually often a favorite to recline over instead of a block. It's just kind of a little bean baggy thing. So if anybody wants that. And then I've got blankets to be able to tuck under the head or to roll up under you. This under the bra strap. Yeah, you bet. Is that good? Want to put a layer? Okay. Anybody feel like they want a blanket to create a roll? Great. And so when I do a blanket roll or a towel, I always put the roll part under the ribs and all the excess up towards my head, because it's not going to mess with your back, but also just makes it really easy then to make an adjustment if you want more or less. Okay. Good. Yeah, and if you just kind of, as you're assessing, you're like, ooh, I want to investigate a little tweak, let me know. There's that. Yes. And I find that sometimes honestly an inch or two makes, not even a half inch can make a difference, up or down. So if this is not quite sinking for you, make adjustments. I'm here to help. One of the primary things I like to do in this shape is to simply breathe and roll the head side to side. That can be incredible. And it's right at that bra strap. And if you're just relaxing here, you can have your arms, palms open. If at some point you want to add the shoulder exploration, I bring those arms in a little and then I just take one arm to the ceiling and then slowly reaching behind to then pulse that arm out and back up in by the ear. And if you take that arm even past center, so like I've got my right arm, I'm rotating my face to the left so that my arm can come past the center line. And I can feel it's really helping me get into some of that psoas line and some of that lat muscle line. And when you're ready, I'll explore the other arm. Stay as long as you like. When you come off, please roll a little to one side so that you're not straining the front of the neck. And then you are welcome to remove the object and then just come onto your back body once more. So I'm going to ask you to simply notice as you're kind of settling, do you need to add a layer? Is there another pose you need, first of all? Obviously, maybe you're not feeling complete. Another stretch, maybe it's just belly. Maybe you want to come in and explore what's in that kind of neck and skull connection. Because you're sensing the tension there. And remember, you have a blanket nearby because of our last pose. But if you need anything else, please let me know. It's kind of fun to remember sometimes that the word yoga literally means to yoke together, to unite. And so as we're settling in, it's also wonderful to remember that a lot of wonderful integration and recalibration happens during our resting time. So while it may look to the world like we're doing nothing, we're actually allowing an amazing process to happen. I think of it sometimes as the bulbs, like the bulbs under the Earth's surface that are taking in nourishment, etc., and getting ready for when it is time to come forth. So may you each take in whatever integration and nourishment you need during this time to go forth into the day that's waiting for you. Please give yourself to gravity. It's as if you were going to be here for a great long time. Might notice the softening of your face muscles, your scalp, your tongue, your jaw. Notice your breath settling into the soft, relaxed breath of a baby sleeping, safe and secure, non-striving. Just this moment, this body, this breath. Right? Did it become slightly voice, but staying deeply diverted. So on our retreat, it started on Valentine's Day, which we intentionally used as kind of a launching point or excuse, if you will, to talk about self-love. And that is the ultimate love relationship, and the relationship from which all of our other capacity to love comes, to extend and generously, authentically, just feel so much love, gratitude, not just for other humans, it might be for the planet, for the day, for an idea, for whatever it is, to have that aliveness in us to extend to others, that we really have to, it's all the same metaphors, nourish your own garden, blah, 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 right? It's all true. So anyway, I have a track of music that I'm going to play. I'm going to have to close the Zoom first, but then invite those who are here. You might take one hand to your chest, one to your belly, and just let this song wash over you. It's very, very brief. But it's one I discovered a long time ago, and it just made me feel like humming and kind of loving to myself. So I hope you have fun with that. And thank you guys so much for being here. I'm glad you were. Be good to yourselves.